So here we are. We're less than less than half a day into the news that Jeffrey Epstein has supposedly committed suicide. And one of the biggest observations I think that I can take away from this is that now, according to the FBI, there are a ton of quote unquote terrorists all over the United States. Domestic terrorists are now everywhere because I don't know about you, but when I see just about every single mainstream media pundit asking the question, at least if this was suicide, when I see other people in the mainstream and plenty of people in my comments saying that he was switched out, you just can't wait for the amount of conspiracy theories, disinformation, and downright nuttiness that's going to go down here. Now, believe you me, they've already taken this Jeffrey Epstein incident prior to the suicide. You can go check it out. But there's an article out there, I think it was Vice, I don't want to misspeak, but they talked about how the Jeffrey Epstein saga was giving the QAnon crowd everything that Pizzagate couldn't. Okay? And I'm not here to talk about emails and Podesta and James Alefantis, but I am here to say that they were already then saying, look at all these crazy conspiracy theorists around Jeffrey Epstein, trying every which way to discredit some of the more, I don't know, how would I say obscure, but huge allegations there. Some of the more odd things about this whole thing, from, you know, the fact that he was heavily invested in technology, was into eugenics, seemed to have occult eyes as well, even on his island with his giant tarot sundial and his temple. A lot of people, you know, in recent years, it got, not recent years, I'd say recent weeks, it got a little bit more attention, but it's something that certainly wasn't focused on, right? Hold on, we're going to switch hands with karma. All right, let's continue on. So as this goes through, and what are we, I think a week out from when that FBI document came out. Now, let's get specific here. A lot of people reported on that 15-page FBI document. Only about 5 or 6 pages were pretty relevant. But we read the whole thing, and what did it talk about? Well, you can't talk about a new world order. Okay, well, why is it that prime ministers like Tony Blair and Cameron can talk about a quote-unquote new world order, Gordon Brown, but I'm not allowed to? That's a little bit bizarre, don't you think? How come David Rockefeller is allowed to write about it and his protege, Henry Kissinger, can run around quoting and talking about it, I don't know, dozens, if not hundreds of times on the record? But I'm a conspiracy theorist for talking about it. And that's a big problem for me because I made Invisible Empire and New World Order defined. Is Jeffrey Epstein and theorizing whether he was killed? And by the way, 76 people watching, 15 likes. Come on, Burmese Brigade. Like it and share it. Let's go. Thank you so much. Jeffrey Epstein, if we're theorizing just on maybe he didn't kill himself. Let's just go right there. Now, every single outlet I've seen that's any kind of honest has already asked that question. People are now theorizing whether or not there were any camera malfunctions, but it does nobody any service to put out disinformation that cameras malfunctioned unless we can actually corroborate that, okay? I'm also seeing things in my feed where people are anonymously speaking about being a nurse and them swapping him out. Don't work that way. Listen, anonymous nonsense does nobody any favors. If you want to be the real deal and you saw something, you got to come forward, period. If you're not going to come forward, once again, there's nothing there. So let's continue on this road to domestic terrorism on the Epstein case. Now, I showed an article, I don't know, it's got to be close to a decade old now, with Ken Lay after his apparent death. And on the cover of the New York Post, they wrote, "Check the coffin." Now, Was that a conspiracy theory? Well, it wasn't one that was named in the FBI domestic terrorism document that was for law enforcement and seemingly leaked to the public. No. But what was? Well, you can't talk about Zionism. Really? So you're not allowed to talk about basically pro-Israeli politics that coincide with a neocon globalist agenda of domination over Eurasia through black operations and spycraft. That's a conspiracy theory. Even though scholars have written about it for a very, very long time, and this Epstein case has the earmarks of that network all over the place. Let me repeat that. All over the place, everywhere. Not in here or there, all over the place. Is that a conspiracy theory? Are you all now domestic terrorists? Let me tell you, today's been a record number day for the amount of live stream views at one time on several videos. We broke previous records. I'm getting phone calls and text messages from many friends, some of which I have not spoken to in over a year, maybe a couple years. Okay? And every single one of them, whether they've agreed with me in the past or, hated what I've had to say in the past, are extremely suspicious of this. And how could you not be? And once again, now when we live in a country where these documents are continued to be shared with law enforcement as sensitive and not for sharing, where people who question events, and by the way, we're going to get to the next section because we've already talked about the quote-unquote New World Order or Zionism, but you're also not allowed to talk about false flag operations. Big problem for me. Big problem for me, okay? Now, if you go back far enough and you talk about, say, the USS Liberty or the Gulf of Tonkin incident, you have two well-documented false flag incidents that got us into wars. If you want to talk honestly about Operation Northwoods and the idea of a false flag operation with drones and a flight over Cuba and a drone dressed like a Russian MiG to shoot it down, we could talk about that. We could also talk about the possibility of Miami terror operations in that document, okay, where they were going to use plastic explosives on the street. We won't make false claims that aren't in that document, because why do that? I've heard you-know-who talk about they were going to shoot up movie theaters. No, they weren't. That wasn't part of it. But the things I just read or talked about are actually in the document. We read the whole thing over on the channel, so make sure you're subscribed. 233 watching, 48 likes. Let's get to 100 likes, guys. Let's bring that Burmese Brigade closer to 30K. So, false flag operations. Yesterday I had Dylan Avery on, the writer and director of Loose Change. Obviously I was the producer on the final cut of that picture. But then I made a follow-up called Fabled Enemies, where we expose the international intelligence operation that was 9/11. Am I not allowed to say that there was Pakistani ISI funding? Am I not allowed to say that the hijackers came through a Saudi consulate that was basically a front for the Central Intelligence Agency? Am I not allowed to say that the CIA was called on Walid al-Shehri and other hijackers prior to 9/11 and they did nothing? Am I not allowed to say that Khalid al-Mihdhar lived with and rented from an FBI informant? Am I not allowed to say that many of the hijackers were trained at U.S. military bases? Am I not allowed to say that Able Danger, for instance, had a lot of these people on their radar, tracked them, and then were completely ignored? Am I not allowed to say, how you doing? I love walking through the neighborhood. Am I not allowed to say that the FBI, with Robert Wright and Barry Carmody, were not allowed to talk about the truth of the Saudi funding and how the money worked with Yassin Qadi and others prior to 9/11 because of people like Robert Mueller, and especially after the fact controlling that investigation? Am I not allowed to talk about the Israelis that were picked up before 9/11, after 9/11, and on 9/11 that were in a network? Is that the deal? And it looks like we're going to have to take a quick break for some karma poopins, and we clean up our poop here. These are the walk and talks, guys. These are the nitty gritty. We do it, but we're gonna come back to more of that. All right, hold on one second. Karma, what are you doing? What are you doing? Hold on. So 1 second, guys. We're putting it down. And we're cleaning it up. All right. Sorry about that, guys. But, not all superheroes wear capes, you know what I'm saying? And you can be a superhero every day when you walk your dog and then clean up after it. So make sure you do that. Anyway, folks, as we continue through all this, I want to reiterate that when you talk about events like 9/11, and I just talked about the Pakistani, the Saudi, I just talked a little bit about the Israeli one. But talking about that, why is that still relevant today? For instance, I'm talking to Whitney Webb. We're talking Promise software, which is pre-9/11. But then we get to the Israeli use of telecom companies, Amdocs and Comverse, to compromise all sorts of different networks within our quote-unquote intelligence community. And that was a part of 9/11. And Fox News did a 5-part extensive story on this. And bringing that in, that's apparently going to be in the next part of her piece after the mega group we just covered, where she's going to say, yeah, that's the next, that was the next step until Carbine, which is the current step. And what is Carbine? Well, Carbine is this app that is basically a track trace database tool that we've talked about, okay? It's funded by Peter Thiel and others. I believe it's co-founded by Ehud Barak, and it's got this woman, Nicole Junkerman, as well as Epstein, that's basically the face of this organization. IDF Connected. Johnny Vedmore, I think of The Swamp is his website, did an incredible piece. 354 watching, only 98 thumbs, 97 thumbs. It went down. Let's thumb it back up. So, you look at this and you see, wow, this intelligence network is very large. It's got its hands in a lot of things. It's not just the underage trafficking of girls, okay? It's globalism. It's arms dealing via people like Prince Andrew, okay? Prince Andrew is the arms dealer for the royal family. Connections to Adnan Khashoggi in the 80s. Trilateral Commission, 95 to 2008 confirmed. CFR. Larry Summers. This is so much bigger than Clinton and Trump, period. There's, big connections there. There's things that need to be talked about, and we've covered them ad nauseum on this channel. And we're going to continue to cover this because, once again, just for watching it, you're a domestic terrorist. You're a potential threat for questioning anything Epstein, whether he killed himself or not, whether or not he's dead. I mean, people are actually asking that question and saying, you know what, it's not that kooky to think. I mean, especially if he was intelligence, especially if he had, a tenth of the amount of money he was purported to. He certainly had powerful people on his side. So, I don't know, guys. Like I said before, we're going to continue with this story wherever it takes us. It doesn't matter. We're not going to stop because he's dead. We're going to demand people like Ghislaine Maxwell are arrested and this network is further unraveled. We can't allow this to just go down the memory hole. No, I won't do it. I won't do it. So let's continue to fight on. I love all you guys. Make sure to check out the other videos today. There's been a ton. I also did an interview with Press for Truth. Dan Dix, great organization. Support him as well. And with that being said, I will see you all on the flip side.